Get your coffee. Today joining me will be John Quist from Georgia Highlands College, Associate Professor of English. Get your coffee. We'll be right back.
I'm transferring to the University of West Georgia.
Columbia University.
Kennesaw State.
UGA. Loyola University in Chicago.
Grambling State.
Shorter University. I'm going to Greensboro College, and we all got our start at Georgia Highlands.
No matter where your educational journey takes you, you can get your start at Georgia Highlands College. Georgia Highlands College. Enroll, engage, excel.
Welcome to the GHC Coffee Break. I'm so excited about my guest today, John Quist from Georgia Highlands College. He is a assistant. I don't know how to get it wrong. Assistant professor of English at Georgia Highlands.
Yes.
You're also, I believe, a new club advisor for a book club.
Yes.
So this is perfect that you're here today because we're going to talk about getting caught in the act of reading, write a novel. We're real excited about this because I'm an avid reader. So
yes.
Welcome, John.
Great. Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited. So tell me a little bit about what you do at Georgia Highlands and how it relates to either writing a novel or reading, of course, in your book club.
Okay. Well, I teach English, and for us at Georgia Highlands, that means a lot of freshman composition, 1101 and 1102. And my specialty in research is modern American literature. So for the sophomore level classes, I teach world literature and American lit, and those are always fun. I'm also teaching a humanities class on literary adaptations into film, and it's the first time it's run this semester, but it's been a lot of fun, and I hope that will continue into the future. I'm also involved with, have been involved with the Old Red Kimono, the literary magazine, and the 6 Mile Post. I'm one of the campus liaisons for 6 Mile Post, which continues to astonish all of us with their award-winning publications. And just recently, our first meeting was in February, and we're having another one this month at the end of April. We've started a book club for Georgia Highlands, but also for the community. Anyone is invited. You don't have to be a student or an alumni or anything like that. Anyone is welcome. And that's been a lot of fun getting that started. Apparently there was one a few years ago, and it kind of died off, and John Hershey, the dean of my college, asked if I would be interested in trying to revive that club, and I jumped at the opportunity, so we've gotten started with that as well.
And actually, a few years ago, and I don't know if this is the one that John, because it often, I've been here almost, getting on 20 years, it's kind of scary, but I had tried to do like a breakfast club / book club.
Yeah. Didn't
make it an official club. It was just kind of, hey guys, we're going to meet and we're going to chat about this book.
That's pretty much where we are right now.
And had a lot of fun with it. John was the advocate at that point too. He said, we've tried it off and on. So, and I love it because like I said, I've been an avid reader for ever since I can't remember not loving to read.
Right.
Even as a child. Definitely as a teenager, I went through. I can't tell you how many times I read Gone with the Wind, and 1,000+ pages at probably 6th or 7th grade. I just loved the story.
Yeah.
But so I was really excited to see the book club come back.
Yes.
And you're also involved, haven't you been involved with the One Book, One Voice?
Yes. There's a community-wide literacy program called One Book, Many Voices.
Many Voices, sorry.
And we've been bringing authors to Rome for, let's see, six
or
7
7
years.
years,
Yeah. We started with the bang with Maya Angelou, and
I went to that
was
one.
a fantastic
It was
night.
awesome.
The forum was packed, and that, this is National Poetry Month, April, and you don't often see a packed auditorium for poetry, but it was bursting at the seams that night. It was a lot of fun, and we've had a series of really great writers since then. And the book we're working with for the upcoming year is called Voices from the March, and it's a collection of poetry by a writer named George Ella Lyon. And she's a very popular writer with elementary, middle, and high school teachers, and the book is really interesting. She's sort of recreated characters from the March on Washington with Martin Luther King's famous speech, and kind of created, tried to recreate what the atmosphere was like that day, and the sense of anticipation and the sense of joy and pride at that moment in history. And we're going to do it at the new Anna K. Davies Elementary School on South Broad, which will be open just a month or two when she comes to town. That'll be in the fall and in October.
Awesome.
But that section of South Broad has its own history associated with the civil rights movement and the protest movement, and so it seems like the perfect place to host her event. So we're really excited about that, and the concept is that the community all reads the same books, the schools, citizens, colleges, and then come together with the author to hear her speak and to have a conversation about the book. And it's been probably the best experience I've had professionally since I've been here, just being associated with that.
I was lucky. A few years ago, we did 13 Reasons Why.
Yes, that was part of that series. Yes.
And actually, it led me into getting very, very involved in suicide intervention, prevention, and postvention. John was really kind to ask me if I was interested, and I made some really great connections through that book. And through meeting Jay. Jay Asher was a wonderful,
that was
loved
a
meeting him.
Great speech and presentation.
Yes, he was awesome. So, it's been one of those things, it's evolving, and I think that's awesome. So, and typically, I can't always, but if I try to squeeze in whatever the book is into one of my classes, because I've just always tried to make that connection. I teach sociology. I think you knew that, but sociology and human services. So a lot of the books that have come, I've been able to incorporate into my coursework. So that's been awesome.
Yeah. Well, we, the steering committee of One Book, are so appreciative of the community for their support, and we've always had a good turnout, and the teachers in the schools and the colleges just do a wonderful job of promoting it and using it, and it's always a great time. So I hope people will come out again this year.
Yeah, I think a couple of my other favorite authors that y'all brought to, Paul Rasabinga, I'm probably saying his last name really bad, but
Hotel Rwanda. Yes.
He was awesome. There are very few people that I meet that I would literally just swoon over and say, "Oh my God, I don't ever want to wash my hand again." He is one of those.
Yeah.
I read the book. Of course, I saw the movie. Don Cheadle was awesome. But and you were talking about books to movies. Sometimes the book can be really good and the movie be really bad.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things we talk about in the class. What happens? Why do they make certain decisions to change things?
Wish I would have known that. I would have tried to slip in and audit that class. I think I would really enjoy that. But so have you kind of getting to you and your personal reading habits, and were you always one of those that every time your parents saw you kind of caught in the act of reading?
I would say yes, and especially at an early age with comic books, and C.S. Lewis was an early favorite. I read the Narnia Chronicles when I was pretty young, and that made a huge impression on me.
Still love those.
Yeah. All of the Beverly Cleary books, the Henry and the Paper Route and Ramona.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, those were early favorites. I think probably as a young adult and adult reader, the first book that just sort of stopped me in my tracks was probably The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, and I felt like the voice of the narrator in that novel was me, and that's not necessarily a compliment because Holden has a lot of problems, but I really identified with him and his story, and that's when the lights sort of went on and said, I think I might want to look into this as a profession. You know, I felt like I had my calling there.
And somehow I've missed that one, and I haven't required
reading.
It's a
classic.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm
but
trying
there
to
are
go
a
back
lot
and
of
think some
classics that I haven't never gotten to.
But now you've got my curiosity piqued. I love John Steinbeck's books. East of Eden was just awesome, and I can't even name all the ones he's written that I loved because I loved them all. But
did you ever have an experience where you were reading, especially as a young person, and you thought, this is me?
You're going to laugh, and it's okay.
It's okay.
I love the Nancy Drew and Trixie Belden. A lot of people don't remember Trixie Belden.
I remember my sister reading those.
But Nancy Drew, they were both Nancy Drew was the big character in Nancy Drew, obviously. The detective, teenage detective, but a little bit younger group with Trixie Belden's, and I was about that age when I was reading them, and it was a group of friends as opposed to, really just Nancy and George, I think was the other female character in there that was real, they were great friends.
Right.
But yeah, I thought, I want to be a detective, or I want to get into this. Oh gosh, like I said, I don't remember not reading, but I think because I love to read so much, I don't really remember as a young kid the books necessarily. But as soon as I got old enough and could read the words, I jumped into things like John Steinbeck and Margaret Mitchell and just the Trixie Belden, of course, and Nancy Drew books. Loved them. But yeah, that's probably where I clicked. And in our second segment, we'll focus on, but we'll still continue, of course, getting caught reading, but writing. And I'll tell you kind of a little piece on that. But I think I love to catch my grandkids reading.
Yeah.
I love to catch, and of course, they're at the age, my grandson's 13 and my granddaughter's 10. Jacob has always seemed to love to read when he was younger. Now he's getting a little less loving to read. Haley didn't pick it up as early to me as Jacob did, but now she's kind of my little avid reader.
Yeah, she caught the bug.
Yes, and he's, I guess, getting older. But and if they come to Rome with me, we always have to go to Barnes and Noble, and they get to pick out a book. But to me, the games, and I think the games do help kids learn to read because they have to read the instructions or they have to read the characters' dialogue or whatever. But there's nothing like an old-fashioned book.
Well, I feel that way. I've never even tried reading a book on an e-reader of any sort.
Oh, really? I finally have. I'm guilty.
I'm not opposed to it. This is fine for me. And I like the tangible aspect of it.
I tell you what sold me, and I only have about a minute before we have to cut to break, but what sold me on the e-reader is we vacation in the summer, and I was carrying like a suitcase of books because I would read them so quick.
Right.
And of course, they started charging for your luggage, so that was a thing. And then my husband says, "You're killing my back. If you don't get yourself one, I'm going to go buy one. You better go get it so that you can get the one you want."
Right.
So that was kind of how, especially the little quick reads.
Yeah.
Not the ones that I want to make notes in.
Right.
But we do have to cut for break. So get your coffee. We'll be right back with GHC Coffee Break.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back to GHC Coffee Break. John, I have really enjoyed, I could talk about books like for hours and hours and hours.
Be here tomorrow.
But just to kind of finish up that conversation, because we had to go to break, but the e-readers for me, now they're not the books that, like The Alchemist, I've read like on the fourth time and I find something different every time.
Yeah.
But books that are just kind of what I call the quick, easy beach reads, no-brainers.
Right, right.
I like to take because of travel.
Yeah.
But I still like, as you said, let me hold the book. There's just something about having this in your hands to me that is awesome. But I know that we're getting ready for, I think you said, the next book club. And by the time we air in June, we may have missed it. But it's still, I would love for you to share just a moment about that as well.
Sure, yeah. It's going to be an ongoing thing. The plan for now is to try to meet twice a semester.
Oh, okay.
And I don't think we're going to try to meet over the summer just because everyone's so scattered and all of that. But our book for April, which is, I think I mentioned already, National Poetry Month, is a collection of poetry by Luis Alberto Urrea, the Tijuana Book of the Dead. And it's a collection of poetry, really a cycle of poems that he was inspired to write in response to the ongoing debate, controversy, turmoil over immigration across the border from Mexico to America, and all of the issues that go along with that on both sides. And the poems are really beautiful and insightful and disturbing and heartbreaking and joyful, what all great poetry does simultaneously somehow.
Evokes a lot of
the magic of poetry does all of those things at once. But I think readers will enjoy taking a look at these poems and having a conversation about them.
Yeah, to me, whether it's we'll air in June, but rather, even if it's a book that has already been discussed, it's good to talk about books. You don't have to wait until get caught in the act reading or Poetry Month to read good books or write poetry.
Yep.
Our second segment we're kind of hit on too. Like I said, I love to read ever since I can remember. But June is National Write a Novel Month. And that was real exciting for me because I have written one book. It's refereed self-publishing. I went through Zondervan and Nelson to they had to review it, make sure that it was something that they would put out.
Right.
So it was refereed, but still it was self-published. But I'm working on another book. Ever since I was a kid, I've loved to write also. I used to write, embarrassed, scary horror fiction, and my mom said, why did I always kill my sister? And there was nothing, I love my sister, so it was nothing really subconscious there.
Better to do it in writing.
Right. There was nothing subconscious there at all. She's still my best friend. But, wrote short stories, and I used to remember saying, I want to be a writer when I grow up. I don't know if I'm grown up yet. But Mom said, you have to go to college. I'm a first-generation college student. And, you have to go to college. I said, well, never mind. I want to get married, have kids, have a job, not a career.
Right.
But, so I've always I've always written in a journal, off and on, for my whole entire life. Back in the old days, they were called diaries. We call them journals now. But I've always written in those. And I think a lot of times readers do, I don't necessarily think they go hand in hand, but I think that they do have a relationship.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Or there's correlation, if not causation. I think both, in order to be a good writer, you want to be well read.
Yeah. When students ask me, how do I improve my writing? I say, keep reading. Because
Exactly.
the more you read, the more good writing that you read, the better your own will become. And you have to practice as well, as you say, with journals, and any kind of writing is good practice. But it's like anything else, a sport or a craft or whatever, just repetition, and keep doing it and keep revising, revise, which can be maddening, but
Cathartic and maddening.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's all part of it, and you end up with something amazing.
And even, that's the thing, even when you've done all of the writing, the rewriting, and I find that even in pop culture authors today, or even classic authors, but especially the authors today, it's probably never going to be perfect or perfection, and you're never going, and this was hard for me, the idea of rejection.
Yeah, oh, that's a huge part of it.
God.
Yep.
I think I sent something as a, I was probably in 7th or 8th grade to the Inquirer. Because I was reading things, I said, they have to be, this story's got to be fictitious. So I wrote this story about a shipwreck, and I got a letter back. I wish I could find that. I need to get my mom and see if she can find it. But basically it said, we're sorry, it was a great story, but we write nonfiction. I'm going, yeah,
Really?
right, okay. But I accepted it. But yeah, that idea of someone taking and critiquing, because like I said, to me, writing is very cathartic as well. When I do working with clients on issue, I do grief and suicide prevention stuff, and I recommend journaling, because I think it's very helpful to kind of get that without
Otherwise, it's just bouncing around in your head, and
so
hard to make sense of it.
But going back to the fact, I want to be a writer, 40 years later, that is coming to fruition. I'm working on a second book, and as I said, June is write a novel. Now this is write a book in a month, and of course I did use this kind of as a guideline on some of the stuff, which was really interesting. It gave some really good ideas on how to help yourself build your characters. Dialogue can be very, and that's true. When I read, either the dialogue, I'll go, oh, this is really good, or I'll go, oh, this is kind of corny, or this is, I don't think it would sound like that.
Right.
So, you're trying to get in that mindset, but it's just amazes me. And like I said, I just read The Alchemist, and that's one of the things they talk about is that personal legend, and how even as kids, and I think of you talking about you reading, and the Catcher in the Rye that was like, oh yeah, click. I think that's one of the things that we build as a child. And then as an adult, there's a lot of times we go back to that same love that we always had in that passion.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It's interesting because we were talking about different types of writing, journaling, and the thing that struck me about Catcher in the Rye was how personal it was, almost uncomfortably personal. He's telling his own story, and he's just very blunt and honest. And I didn't know writing could be that way. I had written that way in my journals and in letters to friends, and that's kind of how the narrator of that novel is talking. And I thought it had to be more formal and more restrictive, and that just opened up a whole different way of thinking for me.
Now, do you also write?
Yeah, I try to. Very well how much we do with school and grading papers and reading for class and committees and all of that. So the thing with being a writer as a profession, I believe, is just that's your job. You have to dedicate that as almost a full-time job. And the writers I know have a schedule. It's almost like punching in and punching out, and that discipline has to be there. So I write not as much as I would like to, but I write with as much time as I have, yes.
Anything that you're like dying to get published? And you don't have to say what it is, of course, but just is there something?
Well, I have an idea for a novel, whether or not I'll ever put it together, but it's just based on some crazy characters in my neighborhood and a kind of odd scenario that I dreamed up, and the more I think about it, the more I think, that could work. I should try to at least outline it and see what happens.
It's and you're right about the discipline. When I wrote my book, it was basically looking at it was a 14-year work in progress because it was dealing with the death of my child. But with this book, a little bit more discipline than one that I'm working on. But I go to the lake. We have a camper on Lake Altoona. And that's kind of like, okay, I get up, I write. If I want to take a snack or go kayaking and come back, because a lot of times I get ideas and how I want to do something, I'll come back and write. But it is, and that's when I'm really very disciplined. When I'm at home or working, hard. It is very much more difficult because there's too many distractions.
Yeah, and obligations.
And that's what I like about being up at the lake. No television.
Right.
It's really just a time for the contemplation, I guess. But because I've wondered, people like Stephen King and Dean Koontz and J.R. Rowling for the Harry Potter series, the people that really write for a living. In fact, there's a book I saw on Amazon the other day, how to become a professional writer or something like that, where it is your job, it is your career.
Right.
And, I'm not quite ready for that. I love teaching too much, but I do like writing on the side. And, even if it takes you 20 years, you're young, you might get published, who knows? And I do believe, I think that's not only pursuing our dream, hopefully attaining our dream, but if it gives you that pleasure just to write it, regardless of what happens to it. And that's where I'm having to kind of be at.
Well, and I think, I would love to be able to write something and have the reader have that same experience that I had, and I know that sounds maybe ambitious or pretentious even, but that was a real gift to me from Salinger, and it would be wonderful to be able to do that for somebody else.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of my favorite authors right now, and we have only a couple seconds left, is Jodi Picoult.
I've heard of her.
I like her because she deals with a lot of ethical issues. So get your coffee. We'll be right back.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.
We're back with GHC Coffee Break. John, we have to tie up some loose ends, I guess. Or I don't know if there's even loose ends. We just have to tie up the end of it.
Right.
Get caught reading. Awesome. I think that I don't care if it's in what month it is, but I think we have to always be caught reading. Enjoy writing. I think that that's one of those really positive things that we all can do. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's just getting it out on words.
Right.
So we have about 15 seconds. I want you to take us out naming all of your favorite authors.
Okay. Harper Lee, Truman Capote, William Faulkner, you can tell I'm a Southerner, Ernest Hemingway, Ann Tyler, C.S. Lewis, J.D. Salinger, Alice Munro. Keep going.
Is that it? Yeah, keep going.
Let's see.
I'll throw in a couple of mine. Jodi
Picoult.
I used to love James Patterson.
Joan Didion.
There you go. Dean Koontz, Stephen King.